Settle in, class, because I realized I could make both videos on some of these gods, but I can't do that for all of them. It would take me years. There are hundreds, from a drunken legend descending on a dare to the beloved goblin heroes. So it's time to dive into the big 20, the main gods of the inner sea where you'll usually be in Galarian. It's time I speedrun offending everyone at work. I'll try to keep these short, but I will fail as readily as my organs. Sorry for being gone so long, but I found some time between procedures. Also, while my voice might sound different, a month of acid damage will do it. I mean, typical me, right? A 2-month vacation turns into crawling back half a year later, telling life it's gonna have to try a little harder than that. Anyway, you ready? Then hit those buttons below and let's go. We'll start off by tricking you, because before we talk about gods, you need to know about what they are, how they work, and atheism. But if you really don't care, our first god's at the section on screen. Now, a Pathfinder atheist doesn't usually deny that the creature granting you magic is real, just that they're a god. A witch can get the same power from contracts with weird cryptids or better witches. This isn't different, it's just normalized. A dragon isn't a god, and the divine shipper Bolka is just a fanfic writer who happens to be on a higher tier of the power scale. An atheist can even still get divine power, ideals, spirits, codes of honor. There's other ways to get raised eggs. There's even entire societies that don't worship gods. Some just prefer spirits or nature as a concept, while others actively rid themselves of worship. Getting by without gods is hard, but better than infinite indentured servitude. Ironically, this often makes something like a god. Divine power is drawn on itself, and if you get enough belief, you can start to collect it. Your hopes and dreams have got to go somewhere. This will form a quasi-deity. They're creatures who have gotten strong enough to start channeling powers to others, but they're limited in scope and have to stick with their domain. These are things like legendary heroes, beloved or feared rulers, and powerful monsters. Importantly, they are tough, but can still be killed, and if their worship fades, their power will too. They're quasi, like or resembling, but distinctly not. The partial god is the demigod. These can be divine children, but a quasi-god with legions of followers who's reached the pinnacle of mortal kind might eventually claw their way to becoming one. It's also where we put the demon lords and Fey Eldest. They can grant all sorts of power, and some might be as strong as a minor god, but they can still be killed. It might take you centuries to find a party that could try, but everyone bleeds, right? Wrong, that's what a full god is. Gods have become a part of reality. Trying to kill one takes a lot more than damage, and while the greatest might wound one, it takes divine help to actually make it stick. And even if you take one down, they leave stains and echoes that linger even after the hole is filled. And that hole they leave will be filled. Even the strongest gods can't kill one cleanly. Reality will toss them around like a chew toy to fix itself. We know that a demigod is legit because they can hurt gods and don't just shrivel up and die if forgotten. But we also know they're not true gods because we can kill them, and losing worshippers will slowly drain their power. And worship mattering is the key because it means they haven't hit apotheosis. It might be through an item or another god or sheer willpower, but the sudden jump to true godhood is a distinct point where they are fully self-sufficient. You finally crack that limit with a burst of power like a sonic boom. A real god can have no followers and still be just as strong. Now that does have downsides, like no one to do your bidding. A few major gods squabbling can break a planet, so as they get stronger they stick to proxies. But the advantage is that they can focus their power. A god can basically split themselves up to have a million conversations while doing other things, but there is a limit. How much of yourself to split off to focus on mortals will differ for everyone. They also have to be careful because getting too attached to mortals can actually change them. Sometimes just from starting to care, but sometimes from so many begging for something they're fundamentally swayed. Some have been pushed into changing domains. Anyway, with lack of gods taken care of and how they work touched on, we can start with Gorum as the first of our 22. Gotta stay on your toes, I'm a tricky little guy though. Especially right now, the divine world has gone wild these past few years. Gorum was the main god of war and one of the oldest in general. He could even match the dwarven gods of the Forge and help make the prison that staves off the end of all things. Our Lord in Iron had no text and cared not for your reason. You fight and take because fight and take. His church thought the same, and you rewarded them with power and size. And you'll notice I keep using past tense because he recently died. The Red Mantis, assassin of the gods, actually managed to put him down. Turns out that armor was mostly empty and exploded. We called it the God's Brain because the shrapnel fell across every world that worshipped him. The shards were incredibly magical, transformed animals, and made everyone near them crave violence. And of course all the other gods of war started fighting over the empty top spot. I don't think I need to explain why that's a very big issue causing trouble everywhere, because that was just in August of 2024 by Earth Reckoning. Aired as 4724 in normal person years. Don't you love living in interesting times? You know, the orcs already solved this problem with the Crucible. Anything with a face and name can die, so orcs get a chance to battle a god for their spot. They're actually neutral towards most people they attack and often make alliances with groups of other ancestries. They're not being violent out of malice, they're just getting ready to fist fight God. They're just being a JRPG protagonist. What's wrong? Mad that you're the nameless goblin they're grinding on this time? Not so fun is... Wait, that's not fair. Make it my turn again. Now the real issue with Gorum dying is that he wasn't supposed to be able to, but for that I need to tell the tale of Aroden and the Starstone, part of the most important in all of Pathfinder. I already said part of this in my Earthball video, but long story short, evil eels were mad we weren't obeying them and tried to hit us with part of a dead planet. They figured it would wipe out life on the surface and we'd have to let them turn us into fish people to survive, but they didn't realize it would destroy everything. A divine couple died to stop it, and the main piece made a crater that turned into a sea. Eventually, this bloody gemstone called out to a man named Aroden who had managed to escape, and upon touching it, he got transported to a divine trial. Passing this trial turned him into a god of history, innovation, human culture, and most importantly, destiny. The great Absalom, known as the city at the center of the world, which would eventually become the starship that everyone's based on in Starfinder, that was Aroden. Creation of other gods on this list, Aroden had his hand in a few, not even including the ones the Starstone made, because he made that temple in Absalom City as well as the island so others could take the trial. Who pissed off those evil eels so bad they thought to wreck the world to begin with? Well, that was an incredible blacksmith and follower of the two gods whose blood soaked that Starstone. Aroden, last of the first humans, mysteriously miraculous and immortal even before godhood. But forget that, what matters now is that he died and everything went to chaos. Not for succession, his followers just went to his friends. No, I mean that people and even gods turned on the goddess of death and fate who probably knows something but won't say. The issue is that his main thing was god of destiny, and when he died, prophecy stopped working. Now that by itself is weird. A god's domain is just their interest. Them dying doesn't affect it. He was also god of human culture, and my anime box sets are still around, so he had to have died breaking it somehow, but that's also beside the point. Do you realize how many things are prophecy? One of the main 8 dragons is a fortune dragon, and they are not having a good time. Also, the entirety of time and space in this world is bound in woven in prophecy. Even the universe-eating apocalypse Rovagug is bound by prophecy as much as his cage. Who knows what'll happen now that it's broken? Every protection and everything bound and destined is now untethered. But the strangest of all is that there is no new god of destiny despite creatures trying. Reality will usually force a power vacuum shut immediately, even if it has to overpower gods. To see it refuse to fill a void is terrifying. Catastrophe makes for great adventures, but the gods are shaking. Gods like Asmodeus, Lord of Darkness, finally a god who's still alive with powers to talk about, despite what most people want. The Dark Prince is one of the oldest creatures in the multiverse. He says he was one of the first made, and that's generally agreed upon. He also claims his brother gave us free will after they created us, and the tyranny, contracts, and oppression he embodies is to scrub that out like he did his brother's life. The other gods disagree with that one, but it's kinda hard to prove wrong. On the bright side, he's the easiest evil god to get along with thanks to his open door policy on deals, outside a few offenders who have tricked him too badly. Yeah, this one actually works with neutral and even good gods somewhat frequently, even if they're hesitant and he's looking down on them like a passing trend. The one thing I love is how he only gets mad if you trick him. If a devil gives you a quest and you find a loophole out of it, Asmodeus is just as pleased as if you actually did it. Something special about him is that most gods can give you power based on their values, like a god of ale might give you better HP and fortitude to drink better. Asmodeus can raise anything, at the cost of your soul. He'll happily help you charm and harm, but even the gods fear his deals, so watch yourself. But maybe you should watch his own back now the prophecy's gone. He was supposed to last to the end times, but being the one to release Rovagug to fight a different apocalypse isn't protecting him anymore. Rovagug is the end of everything. He has no sermons, his only command is destroy. The rough beast, the tide of fangs, this is the creature that lies trapped in the heart of our planet. His spawn are among the most destructive monsters to ever exist. He first showed up before people existed and started eating planets, but they were just boring dirt, so the gods drove him back pretty easy. When Asmodeus killed his brother, he came back, and with delicious murder and history on the table, he wasn't going anywhere. The plane of order still hasn't recovered. Countless worlds were consumed. He was eating reality and even gods. They all had to band together to trap him, and many died in the process, and that's why other planets avoid us. The universe is actually full of life, but they call us the cage and keep their distance. I mentioned before how the gods use proxies to avoid cracking planets in a fight, and that's bad anywhere, but especially here where your adventures are. He can rarely influence the world from there, but the blockers on his voice are crumbling, and that influence is strong. He's happy to hand out attacks and immunities and magic, though he can also make you permanently confused or break all your stuff forever, so maybe don't contact the World Ender. You'll hear about him a lot, either running into monstrous cultists or fighting his latest escape attempt. Maybe now that prophecy's broken, we can weaken or kill him? Or just kill Asmodeus, he's the only one who can open the cage. Because if that thing gets open, this time it's personal. And for once that feeling's mutual, even for Pharasma. Pharasma is the Lady of Graves, oldest of all, trusted and respected by nearly everyone. When reality was destroyed, there was only one survivor. When this one follows suit, it won't be the same. Though this time not her. According to rumor, it's her youngest daughter, which she would know because she knows all possible fates of all creatures. Even for gods, their souls are judged by her. Free will exists, and she remembers your other timelines. You're being judged by what you could have done. Though good luck getting her to reveal anything on any topic. She's birth and death, fate and time. Her appearance changes from place to place, and is one of those gods that basically everyone knows whether they realize it or not. She shaped reality, knows your timeline, and to top it all off, of course, she's the ultimate goth girl. She shows her favor with black roses and birds of misfortune as she rests in the boneyard under a gritting moon of madness that will one day turn off the lights of the world. These are her psychopomps, basically your version of angels, and if she likes you, she'll lock you into a timeline where you succeed at something you need. And that's the best part, she does like people. She actually cares for every soul. She keeps every secret out of respect for the dead. People got so mad at her for not giving a warning about Aroden and Prophecy, but her pain was so great it even bled over to her oracles. Imagine your goddess being in so much pain you can feel it from another dimension, only to find that your former allies are blaming her for not caring. She's only cold and distant because we all deserve an impartial judge, and once we're judged, a soul can't be revived. From minions to fellow gods, her house is here to protect you from poachers, guide you home, and ease your suffering. They're happy to fix your physical damage, and for emotional damage, find a Katrina for therapy. Pharasma has done everything she can to make sure you're at peace with the next step. Terry Pratchett was right, death actually does care, usually. Annoying her is actually really hard because even resurrection or becoming immortal are perfectly fine. Take as long as you need, she's not going anywhere. But as the deity of her birth, she does have a problem with undead. Pause your timer all you want, but no rewinding, that's cheating. Oh, fun fact by the way, the god of accidental death and tragedy is always screaming about being her greatest rival that one day he'll kill. As far as we know, she's never even bothered responding. Other than Rovagug, whose prison she made the seals for, the only god she actually hates is Urgathoa, goddess of undeath. Also, gluttony and disease, she's one of the few ways to get forced feasts. That spell I keep bringing up where you conjure food directly into people until they're sick and bloated. Because Urgathoa was a mortal who rejected all restraints and rules, and lived a life indulging every pleasure and taboo to the fullest. That somehow made her so strong that she killed the psychopomp trying to help her accept death, ripped her way back to the world, became a goddess, and now calls everyone to indulge in everything. She wields a scythe, wants you to never deny your appetites or destroy undead, and gives her favorite people visions when they're sick. She's friends with shit. That's the third time I've gotten a nosebleed when saying Xipus. I'm thirsty over like half this list on my Tumblr, but not that poser. Not even if I swung that way. Wrong kind of pathetic. Anyway, Xipus is that god of accidental death I was talking about earlier, and you'll soon find that them being friends is really weird. Most of Urgathoa's followers are undead or on the way there, and she wants you to do everything in the most extreme way possible. But she's pretty simple, and you'll figure out why later, so let me show you a more complex god. The unyielding Arazni, goddess of survival, dignity, and the abused. The oppressed, enslaved, and outcast, we have to survive. Her secretive and scattered followers are mostly poor and struggling, but they come from all walks of life. A gilded cage is still a cage, and your captor being rich doesn't make them less abusive. She was a spell-sword adventurer who impressed Aroden and became a hero, rising from death to fight for humanity. Humans who then betrayed her by binding her to a fight she was already helping with. This let the Lich King capture, torture, humiliate, and kill her. They did get her body back, but then it was restolen and forcibly turned into a bound lich. There she was tormented and forced to rule as a puppet for 1,000 years, but bitter resilience will never die. She endured knowing that one day Aroden would come for her. He died after a millennium of never trying. She and some mortals tricked the Lich King into destroying the magic fueling her as a last act of defiance, but she would not die. Most of her subjects mocked her, but the abused and enslaved truly worshipped her. She was a symbol of resilience, of contempt in the face of capture. You can break my body, but never my anger. Even without a patron supplying her power, she was still a demigod, and hit apotheosis through sheer will to survive. Now a full-blown god, she immediately left and rejected all her followers. She was absolutely done with trusting others, especially gods. After all, the ones she knew from back then mostly just rejected and pitied her unholy form, and as for the rest, they left her to die, with a few exceptions. The goddess of love, Shelyn, gave her a home, and is the only major god who actually understands how to handle the situation. A few have tried to reach out, but you can't just throw a fucking welcome party and act like nothing happened. You give her a private space where she can work through this shit while being there and helpful, but respecting her boundaries. Arazni is also tentative friends with a goddess of revenge and a fellow tyrant-slaying former adventurer, but we'll get to them later. The only one she actually trusts is a minor goddess of community and safety, an ancient one from her childhood, Kazutal. She's great. She used to be a war goddess, but was shifted with her people's need. But when she heard what happened and saw everyone abandoning one of her own, that rage came right back out. Finding out a god of her youth was always on her side and validates her anger, seeing her torn up about how this happened without her knowledge and understanding violence and transformation, it really helped. And she is opening up bit by bit, finally starting to heal. She's even kinda trusting followers and helping them claw themselves out of situations. And as she's healing, she's slowly losing the traces of her undeath, but she still dresses in her old adventuring clothes and always has an eye out for the exit, because if she deems you worthy of help, she's coming there herself. She's not gonna fix your situation, but she will give you the tools to do so. She wants her followers to be self-sufficient, to the point that in a lot of these factions, most of the followers don't even know who their patron is. She wants you to survive at any cost and never forgive those who hurt you. One of her primary rules is don't you dare insult me, a rule that's only second to don't make make unwilling undead like that bitch Urgathoa. And you do not want to be on her bad side. She'll give your enemies information or even make healing hurt you. I didn't really know much about her till last year, but now she's definitely in my top tier. And of course, we can't talk about her without Iomedae. Iomedae was her champion before the capture and fall, where she then became the replacement. She was a legend fighting Arazni's bow tooth and claw for the order that got Arazni killed, so that only gets you so far. She took the test of Starstone, became a god, and when Aroden died, most of his worshippers went to her because they loved her so much. Which on one hand pisses Arazni off. I got left for dead and worse while you got godhood on a silver platter. But on the other hand, she is kind of proud of her former friend and logically knows that she shouldn't have had to suffer. Now what's weird is that Iomedae's herald, her right-hand man, was captured and tortured during a crusade. And while she did actually save him, he wound up no longer in her service. He wound up being Arazni's herald, just appeared on her doorstep one day. And honestly, even she doesn't know what the deal is. Did he feel unworthy and leave? Or is he a double agent sent to meddle? Or maybe Iomedae just wanted this because she knew he'd go to Arazni and she needed a friend. Watching how he silently cries when he thinks that no one's around is really all she needed to know. Now Iomedae knows she has a debt to pay, and also that she can't. That well's been poisoned. The two are, and I quote, at a standstill, cautiously watching each other across a graveyard of bitter history and half-healed wounds. And this is why I don't just check the wiki. Just looking at the summaries, you'd never learn about this bitter mutual longing. The real tragedy would have been me not having more slow burn heartbreak Yuri to think about. All I would have known is that they both hate Urgathoa. Ooh, what's next? You gonna tell me they have a name? Anyway, the non-obvious reason I'm going on about Yuri is that she's new, so most of her feats are a long list of impressive battles she won for someone else. And she even tells her followers that the details of those deeds don't matter as long as you learn to keep growing. She's the ideal paladin sending people to fight. The champion of champions, a goddess of action more than words. Justice and honor and valor, the sword and sun shining onto all. She calls her followers to be fair and live good lives while being good to others actively. You can't just be vaguely good and hope things work out. You need to find and fight injustice. Also, law is generally good, but unjust laws and lawkeepers should be fought and fixed, as well as finding and fighting evil in general, but that goes without saying. Most of her followers don't really need urging to jump into the fray. But be warned, she is big on acknowledging and repenting for your mistakes and hunts out corruption personally. If you're looking to fight evil on the front lines for good and justice, this is a fine choice to serve. Now let's backtrack to the person who's housing Arazni. Don't worry, I'm done ranting about her. Shelyn is goddess of art, beauty, love, and music. Your art is valid no matter what you think the quality is and shouldn't be warped by jealousy. Your beauty should not be tainted by obsession or used cruelly. And make sure that you're gentle and kind, forming lasting relationships based on more than just attraction. Not that it should be absent, despite common belief she does have lovers like Desna and Serenray. And while she does keep rejecting the goddess of sex and revenge, they still get along fine. She's on great terms with basically everyone, not you, and even the worshippers of evil gods are neutral towards her at worst. Everyone has something they find beautiful or someone they love, because they don't just mean romance. Family love is also her domain in most of her stories. She was born to a spirit wolf and an unknown god of love, and she and her half-brother used to be inseparable. But then he turned into the major god of mutilation and torture, tortured their father into being his herald, wounded her, and was only held off by a deal with other gods. He received the perfect shadow, a self-replicating creature of darkness, in exchange for being banished for as long as the sun stayed in the sky. Doesn't even matter how hard she tries, Zon Kuthon won't come back to the light. She even keeps the weapon he brought back from the darkness, despite knowing it has a bad influence on her. It's full of stolen souls to try to free something, but maybe if she can get them out, it'll help. And to touch on him a little bit more, since he is one of the big 20, he basically bled beyond the edge of the universe after a fight with his sister. Whatever happened to the 3 days grace dimension did make him more powerful, but now he thinks that pain without love is the only way to be strong. His willing followers can't get enough pain, either because they like it rough or they'd rather feel pain than nothing at all. Though I specify willing because many aren't. They're more about mind break than consent. There's not really much else to say about the Prince of Pain. I think he's pretty self-evident. His priests have spiked chains while wearing tight black leather and casting things like phantom pain. He's just what satanic panic people are thinking of when they're sputtering about devils and BDSM. But at least he doesn't attack his sister anymore. And don't get me wrong, he doesn't like dealing with anyone, but she's his only truce and they remain in semi-regular contact. Anyway, back to the main subject, Shelyn is his opposite, asking her followers to be peaceful, see beauty in everything, and lead by example. She gives out spells of creation, protection, and distraction. If she likes you, she makes everyone else like you. If she hates you, she cranks up your empathy to sickening levels or gives you the ultimate base blindness. Anyone you try to remember becomes a blank shape and you cannot tell creatures from each other. But again, that's rare. She has no enemies outside Urgathoa. It's why she's in 4 different major pantheons. So calling the Radiant Prism a pantheon really feels like stretching. It's a sapphic pattern-throuple. The gods of stars and sun with Shelyn's beautiful rainbow connecting them. They're fighting evil, guarding innocence, and trying to give second chances. I'm joking a little bit, but they are lovers in an open poly relationship. And look, if you're going through Pathfinder lore, you're gonna find open relationships and gender fuckery and all sorts of people living their life. It's one of the big reasons why there's so much hate for it. Some people just get desperate for a chance to tear it down. Oh, and the stars in this case are Desna, one of the original deities with a lot of lovers on and off. While the others built her universe, she explored and placed the stars, living in the North Star to guide us all. That's why she's the goddess of luck, travelers, and dreams. She wants you to help your fellow travelers while creating and discovering what life has to offer. But try not to be a dick. heck? Whether or not you hurt someone isn't your call to make, and specifically says not to engage in bigoted behavior, which is welcome, but I was surprised to see those words in a rulebook. I also love how our church doesn't really have a hierarchy. Whoever has the most experience in whatever's being done is the temporary leader. Those priests also do a lot of traveling, so most shrines are small and unattended. There's not even holy books, just graffiti left by the last person to clean. Desna and her followers mostly navigate by instinct and are really big on free will. Her followers can heal and teleport and mess with dreams, which I'm sure helps a lot when they're being nosy. We all love Desna, she's great and loves helping and has tons of friends, from other gods to entire ancestries like halflings. She's been in nearly every culture. I was born in the month of Desnas, and she's so nice that she won't give nightmares to even her worst enemies. But she's also nosy and rash. If not for the help of those friends, she would have caused a war with the entire abyss by openly slaughtering a lord who messed with her. She's the active enemy of multiple gods and accidentally freed the evil mosquito god who she's still trying to hunt down. And that's not uncommon. She keeps making gods exist, like summoning a god of silence by accidentally drawing its sigil, or having a kid with someone that became a god. No matter how you mean it, the god of bards and gamblers gets around. Anywhere you go, you'll probably find her, especially if you join the fight against the Lamashtu. The mother of monsters is one of the original 4 demon lords and the first non-god to become one. She did this by luring Desna's mentor into her realm, then weakening him with her armies before killing him. And that's another big reason for followers. Their souls go to you and become your angels or servitors or whatever. Not having minions is a security risk against your only real threat. Desna's been trying to take back the beast powers ever since, though Lamashtu really doesn't care. That is the least of her concerns. She has a lot of divine enemies, like all of the good gods, most of the evil gods, especially Urgathoa, bitter demon exes like Pazuzu, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and all of hell itself thanks to stealing servants from Asmodeus. Cause whenever she's not fucking reality by spawning demons and monsters with secret stolen techniques, she's screwing over everyone else. I'm sorry, just a little bit better. Cause most monstrous bipedal species can point to her as their origin, but not us goblins. She just stole and powered our creator gods and bribed into compliance with a new house. Of course, these so-called creator gods are actually the god of shapeshifters who use their power to lure and eat us. Our faith and love are so pure, we can make a demigod pretty easy, which they've used against us. Now we're afraid to get any attention because of our true love, they sense us getting close to godhood and eat us. Phoebe from the edit here, and after scouring 20 years of tomes, I've learned the creator gods are good for one thing. Now it is true that we think Benkabor is the most beautiful of the creator gods, and she is very fat, which we always make sure to mention one after the other, but the wikis claim that we think fat barghasts are the sexiest thing ever in weirder words is simply false. The whole point of a barghast was that they shapeshift into goblinoid paragons. Now this did change in the recent remaster, but it also made sure to mention we often depict specifically her as a goblin instead. So in conclusion, their one redeeming quality is that they prove we goblins can at least agree on one important thing. Fat goblin girls are just the best. What? I use a little magic to fit the uniform. I'm not actually this thin anymore. The boss says I gotta look the same for brand consistency, but I know she's just trying to spite me. Anyway, at least we've had 4 of them long enough to ascend, but there'd be a lot more without the bastards. And they're better than most of your full gods combined. There's Agero, god of tactics and nap time, Kong, god of loud sounds and pranks, Nernup, god of eating not because you're like hungry or particularly like the taste, but you're just kind of bored and want to chew on something, and TEKI, strong god, hero of being a hero in the forgotten. Her job was eating shrine offerings to failed Starstone gods, but got inspired to tell their story. She started telling travelers these heroes' tales and even making them better. And absolutely everyone loved her so much that she became a god before anyone had time to eat her. She says that anyone who wants to can become a hero, just use your success to help others be a hero. Whenever you've outgrown your gear or find worse stuff, give it to a strong cat station. They give it to novices who can't afford it. That's how right, we were talking about Lamashtu. She's a violent jerk and everything wrong with everything. Pregnancy pains, Lamashtu. Painful disabilities, Lamashtu. Do you have a strong sex drive but never feel satisfaction from it, so you keep trying and feel frustrated like you're wasting your time? That would be Lamashtu, or a selfish lover. Get out now, it's not gonna change. Your clergy of monsters inflict pain and nightmares while trying to warp your flesh like magic radiation. Which reminds me, I've been telling you about boons and curses this whole video without explaining what they are. People who please or offend a god might get help or harm from them, how much depending on why. If Desna likes you a little, she might give you a reroll, and if she likes you a lot, you get to fly on constellation wings. You know what Lamashtu's greatest gift is? The sign that you're her favorite. Once per day, you get to violently give birth to a monster. You don't choose which, it lowers your current to max HP by 3 times your level, and it takes half a week to recover. That's regardless of your biology, and the monster doesn't even listen to you. It just doesn't attack specifically you until you annoy Lamashtu. If you're wanting to be evil, like Rovagug gives you an improved version of a level 20 beat. Lamashtu's paper is violent impreg and the monster doesn't even like you. So let's move on to someone better. Oh wait, that doesn't narrow it down. How about Nethys, god king of all knowledge and magic? And you better pay your respect because the archive his priest maintain is why most of us are able to play. All the information in every book except for the adventure part of the adventures. Every rule and monster, item and spell for free and tag. Officially endorsed too because the creators of the simulator admitted that Nethys just does it better. Whenever I'm doing my research, there's step 1 or 2. Then the wikis are blogs, then they double check their source sources, and then sometimes other books I think might be related before I double check everything. It's why my videos can take so long. There's a lot of misinformation out there and you all trust me. So I am dedicated to making sure that whatever biased opinion I convince you of can't be easily disproven, because it's based on true things that I try to make sure you know. Anyway, you have to be careful with Nethys. The king of Assyrian craved knowledge and bit off more than he could mentally chew. He drove himself insane by forcing all information into himself at once. He saw all of history, cosmic secrets, the dawn of existence. Thankfully, he managed to rise to godhood at the same time, surviving but shattered. The split face mask represents his pieces aligning themselves into two halves. One half wants to use the ultimate knowledge to purge the world and conquer all, while the other wants to protect and educate and unshackle. He's neutral in that he's picking every option at full force, which makes him a bit tricky to work with. He's not so crazy as to help Rovagug be freed, but anything else is on the table. Good, evil, war, peace, as long as you're learning and aren't gonna betray him, welcome aboard. He's unpredictable, can't be trusted with long-term plans, and his followers are everything from a stoic librarian to a chaos-living mad mage. And be really careful if you're asking him for help, because he rarely checks to see if the servant he's sending aligns with a request. If you're trying to sort an archive, he's just as likely to send a fire elemental as a librarian. Oh, and fun fact, he's one of the few gods who never directly contacts or visits his followers. They see it as superiority, like they don't need to be coddled, but it's the other way around. When his successor king smashed his temple and burned himself alive to make the help stop, he realized that mortals can't really handle him. His domain might have protection and education, but also catastrophe. Remember that God's Reign thing where Gorum exploded and the shrapnel fell all over? He battled Thoth over a piece and sent him blasting off like Team Rocket. Nobody's heard from him since. Or any of the others. The Hag Gods tried to use the aftermath for a weird ritual, and stopping them dragged Ra and company to another world. I'm really grateful to Nethys and his cult, but if you're dealing with him directly, you gotta be careful. Maybe try someone more calm like Irori. Him and Nethys are the only two mortals to rise straight to godhood without any help. No help from Divinity or Starstone or Legion of Loving Goblins believing in you. Not even a half step into being a demigod or something. Irori is the god of enlightenment, so perfection and discipline. He just gained physical and mental perfection through meditation and diet and steady physical training. But he does respect the other gods. He knows what's right for him isn't always right for others. So honestly, that doesn't really make him any friends. He only has a few straight up enemies like Asmodeus, and Urgathoa is the goddess of indulgence, so this time she does have a reason. But while many of the other gods respect him and get along with him, most just find him annoying or selfish or stuffy. Their churches are often fine with his because level-headed balance lovers are easy to work with. But when you talk about how you've achieved perfection through discipline and humility, and you know how I could find my way too, but you're sure whatever I got going on is cool, I mean, it's just self-righteous. The man thinks my queen Shelyn is annoying. The friendship-fueled halfling goddess of luck, who's all about helping the poor and raising communities and ending slavery. Her herald's a 10-foot-tall ragdoll person. What more could you want? And she thinks they're close. At least let her down, you stuffy prick. Sorry, I didn't mean for this one to be a hit piece, but that sort of person gets under my skin. And of course, that's amplified by his growing wave of followers and a rivalry with the Starstone gods for cheating. And while most people say that's just his followers speaking out of turn, Divine Mysteries disagrees. And that was written by a psychopomp with far more insight into the background workings than most of us will ever have. He might keep it to himself, but he is judging. And look, I know my bias against self-taught lifestyle gurus is tainting my view. I have little issue with most of his teachings, but I also think that if the god of self-discipline is holier than thou, I don't want to know what a half-understanding zealot's like. Or worse, someone who knows what they're doing.
Breaking news! Local lesbian don't get a fuss over self-titled perfect man. Ain't that right, Amelia?
That's right, Gug. While Halfling's campus-wide are rioting, the integrity of this program is in shambles from this one-sided presentation. Fifi has always been known for her level-headed and unbiased reporting. How will we ever recover?
Keep going like it never happened?
As always, in equally shocking news, Odenai is old and wants everyone to know it. Back to you, Viv.
Fuck you guys. Erastil is the oldest god of humanity and still kicking because farming and hunting and family never go out of style. And I say human gods, but he was around long before. When they captured Rovagug, he was fighting on the front lines. He loves all his divine family and is on decent terms with all the neutral and good gods, but they're just a bit distant because he openly criticizes everyone while giving unwanted advice. He's that stubborn grandfather who brags about your good points to others, but mostly just tells you to start a family. Shelyn will go on walks with him, and he worries about Desna like a distant daughter, and he respects other older gods like Kazutal, but there's always something that just doesn't sit right, and that's kind of the problem. People love him in theory, he is good, and even protects disabled people. Even if he can't work, he still have a place in the community. But that doesn't mean that people like to actually be around him. They mostly just like his tracking and archery skill. And when I say traditional, I mean he used to be a god of the wild, but then he married a goddess of agriculture and took on all her responsibilities while she minds the house. And at least part of him is always back home, tending his fields and complaining about how long it's been since the kids came to visit. His holy books are local stories, his hymns are working songs, his sermons are short, and he hates all evil equally. But not the sort of evil must always be hunted down and opposed way you might expect. More like daemons as daemons, even if they call themselves devils or something, just shoot them till they get off your property. He rarely even bothers differentiating between evil gods, with two exceptions. The first is Garhaz, the dragon god who made his son Bal all out of reality. His duty is more important than vengeance, but he's struggling not to set it all aside and hunt that bastard down. And of course, there's no prize for guessing who's annoying enough that he bothered learning her name. When I said it was surprising that her and the god of accidental death were friends, I meant it was surprising she made a friend. It seems like her symbol's not applied because of death, it's because she always dances just out of reach of whatever you're willing to throw at her. Always just barely not worth the effort. Anyway, if you want to do good without leaving town, Erastil has you covered. He's all about caring for your community and family, no matter what it looks like. Unusual situationship, immigrants, disabled, he didn't stutter, take care of your kin. Follow his path and work hard and you'll find your aim true and your needs met. But if you're bad enough to make him do something about it, your food will taste like ash and you'll be haunted by eyes in the dark and the sound of a bow being drawn. These sorts of trad values don't really click with me, as many twist and insist on them to make my life hell, but Erastil uses them right. So if you're not looking for my demise, take your bow and my blessing. After all, if you aren't trying to hurt me, I don't gotta agree with you to be civil. Erastil's friends with Gozreh, the god of wind and waves. Gozreh's temper is fickle and swift as the roughest storm. Don't let her, they'll turn you into a lightning rod. They actually like people being out on the water, but you gotta respect nature and not bring that civilization garbage out here. Erastil gets a pass because he keeps us in line about respecting nature and not disrupting it. Also, don't make a mockery of the natural order, Urgathoa. He doesn't even like getting involved with other gods. Good job pissing off the concept of rain. I'm actually half serious. If she's gotta be the ultimate hater, I can at least respect that she's not half-assing. At least she's impressively annoying. Fun fact, their sky aspect is depicted as masculine and their sea aspect is feminine, but they are considered to transcend gender. They're a god of duality, so they do a lot of form switching. The priests are often detached or even hermits because people just don't get it. They'll throw offerings in the sea to beg for safety before drowning anyway, because what did I just say about littering? Though I would like to note that's one of the common reasons to worship in a polytheistic world. You might pray out of reverence or agreeing with the god or wanting their help, but you also might do it out of respect or fear or just wanting to be spared. For those primarily faithful to Gozreh, it's more about connecting with something so massive and awe-inspiring that you're just a drop in a hurricane. Those who want to be part of something bigger. Of course, you'll find people giving tribute everywhere. Sailors, adventurers, fishers, hunters, anyone who spends time outside or dealing with animals. There's a shrine in pretty much every village. Worship of nature is about as old as it gets. Do you want a god who's direct, clear, awe-inspiring, and doesn't care about divine crusades? Then Gozreh might be for you. Though I can't swim and once shouted King Lear's speech at a storm at my Jamie's. You know, the one where he's basically yelling, "Do it, you won't, coward." Then lightning hit a tree like 20 feet to my side. I ran back, stopped, turned around, finished, and then went inside. I don't litter and love nature, but if the gods want me, they know where I am. So let's move on to their biggest rival who tries to ignore them, Abadar, the master of the first vault, god of cities, trade, travel, and wealth. He's a flashy banker and judge who'll try to tell you how teaming up to take down Rovagug was his work. The others who are part of it disagree. Now I will actually give him some credit. Despite his flair, he really is all about being impartial and working together. Neutral is in playing all sides and learning all perspectives. Plenty of churches of all faiths are built in collaboration with him. His architects know their stuff and are great at organizing labor. Many of his clergy are also bankers and merchants and lawyers, and he rewards them for passing laws that encourage equality or punish profiting off chaos. Of course, in practice, it turns into people saying that if you're rich, you're better and God loves you more. It's prosperity gospel, and many of his followers are the rich trying to get richer or people who think they'll get rich too if they just work hard. He apparently gets really grumpy if you use unequal systems to get richer, but he'll only do something about it if it's a pirate or thief. As long as you don't mess with his supply chain, he functionally doesn't care. He won't reward a grifter, but they just got rich. They already got rewarded. It's pretty common knowledge that if you see one of his champions, it's a coin flip on if they're fighting oppression or the oppressed. The main dogma of his holy book is to foster economic growth, ensure trade flows, and reinforce laws that uplift the people. But the first two are not inherently good, and the latter's easily turned into uplifting your people, especially as a roving magistrate acting as judge, jury, executioner, and merchant to take whatever's left for resale. And yeah, he's got teamwork. He'll work with nearly anyone, but you don't get brownie points for accepting Urgathoa's money. Oh, and she was also hated by the people I mentioned before her, like Gorum. I just couldn't bring it up yet. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that you'll see this guy everywhere, and he tries to play fair, but his followers might not, which he brought onto himself with murder. Abadar used to have a brother, a god of greed named Llod. Llod was asked to guard the first vault mentioned in Abadar's title, a vault with a perfect version of everything from creature to concept. Llod, of course, took a few things, and Abadar wanted revenge. He made all of Llod's followers doubt he was real and told his own that Llod never existed. He wiped every record and said everything Llod built was him. Now you might remember that being unknown won't affect a full god like this, but apparently gaslighting reality does. He suddenly disappeared alongside everything he'd ever done. The locks on the vault, temple cornerstones, national treasuries, everything vanished alongside him. But you might wonder, what about Abadar? They leave stains and echoes that linger even after the hole is filled. And the hole they leave will be filled. Even the strongest gods can't kill one cleanly. Reality will toss them around like a chew toy to fix itself. Yeah, he'll glare the grifter, but he'll never lay a finger on him. His brother's shadow still holds on because he was a part of reality. The power will go somewhere. Your compliance is not needed. Congratulations, you destroyed greed. Now your followers fall to it faster. And you know what's the best part of all? One of the things missing from Abadar's vault was the perfect death. And what a death it was. But if you want to go against him, let's take a look at his city's back alley. Your Gorber is the shadow he fears the most and doesn't even dare trying to stop. The Reaper of Reputation is the god of murder, secrecy, and trickery. Secrets and hidden knowledge are what Abadar fears more than any knight, though there are definitely knives in play. Now the tricky thing here is that despite being formerly mortal, we don't know anything about his past. Befitting his role, he slipped into the Starstone when nobody was looking and came out a god. Then ran off into the Plane of Law's back alleys and got to work. Despite running the multiverse's biggest thieves guild, he's actually tolerated by the gods there because a crime makes him necessary. And in return, he tries not to disrupt them too much. He stays neutral, but most gods still don't like him. His followers are constantly trying to steal their secrets, and nobody's gonna trust the god of tricking. His fellow Starstone gods won't even talk to him, which is sad because they're the only ones he really seems to like. He respects them for surviving that shared secret. In total, there are 6 gods who won't speak to him, but he has his ways to get around that. Intermediaries and tons of identities. The Reaper steals your secrets, the Grey Master has extortion, Father Skinsaw helps murderers, while Blackfingers helps alchemy. Those are the ones we know about, and his followers work together when necessary, but he likely has others. Even to his closest followers, he always makes sure to hide his identity. These children of the mask are scattered and secret. They know better than to trust each other. This is a cutthroat clergy. And it's not just directly killing and stealing. Plenty are servants or dock workers or butchers. Keep the product moving, turn a blind eye. Normal people keep this machine running smooth. And of course, adventurers are drawn to him. Murder and lawbreaking are staples of the job. Going back to Abadar, there are many trios among the gods. The power throuple from earlier, the 3 remaining Starstone Ascended, or an alliance against a common enemy, like the institutional injustices facing workers. Yeah, that's right, there's a divine labor union. And that's odd. Abadar's the god of labor organizations and fair deals and making good compromises, but for some reason I don't see him. What about your contractors? Didn't you say something about supporting laws that stop the rich from walking all over people? Where's the walk to back the talk? All I see is running. Get back here, motherfucker. Let's see those legendary negotiation skills. Whatever, this is starring Kyrgyz, the formerly mortal farmer who helps people reach their potential. He's the god of healthy competition and a fair playing field. He wants to know why that guy's getting advantages and making 100 times more for a fraction of the work. His divine father of some sort is Cayden Cailean, who's also here. He's a god of drink that helps them relax after work and aids the oppressed and overworked. He's all about fighting tyranny, which includes that one boss. You know the one. Finally, we have our next subject, the dwarven god Torag, god of community and respect. He demands all parties on the job site be honorable and keep their word. It's a union of laborers that'll give you the best work they reasonably can at a fair price. Worshipping a whole pantheon can give you special powers from the union or a smattering of bits from each member. I figured we should probably mention it at some point. Anyway, Torag is head of the dwarven pantheon and tied for being in the most with a whopping 6. Torag's also the only dwarven god most know and is over community, protection, creation, and the forge. From clan halls to their tactics to the clans themselves and what most do, this is the one over it all. He's at the dwarves' top side, he's the ultimate clan leader, and the literal father of most of their pantheon. He even encourages dwarves to follow other members as long as they still give him respect. And that's the thing, I've been talking about these gods individually, maybe throwing in a relationship or how they hate Urgathoa. They're the big 20 everyone knows of. Nobody has a monopoly on the stars or fire. But most gods will align themselves with a culture or ancestry. They might not only care about that group, but they will favor one. Destiny was worshipped by everyone, but Aroden was still a human god. Most people will pay tribute to multiple gods, and even a priest of a specific god will still honor others. Maybe not as strongly, but your god has allies, so why wouldn't you? Whether it's a charity or just hanging out at a bonfire, most gatherings you'll find have a few different worshippers, even if it's for a god. Hell, sometimes people will pay tribute to conflicting gods because they see potential or common ground. But back to the actual subject, Torag is the center point of dwarven life and all their gods. Often literally. If you're in danger, the temple's a stronghold. Honor tradition, honor your clan, and honor your word. And their gods follow him like dwarves are supposed to follow their clan leader. His wife Olgrit watches the home and ensures safety of all. Most of the main pantheon are his brothers or children, including the god of alliances who spends most of his time keeping the family together. Because they bicker constantly like normal dwarves, but you need to remember you're all family. It's fine that you fight, even your gods do, but like them, you need to stick together anyway. They even have an example of what happens if you don't, but that's for another day. Now let's finish with 3 of my favorites because we seriously need to end this at some point. First of all, you've already heard of him, Cayden Cailean. The god of good drink, bad laughs, and nice friends was a mortal mercenary on a bender. As part of a drunken dare, he took on the trial of the Starstone. 3 days later, and still drunk, he kicked open the door of the bar and restarted the party. He's helped others become a god, doesn't have a scripture, and has no organization, but is still crazy popular. He believes in leading by example. His latest adventure will show you what good is. His followers just have to remember something like enjoy life, stand up for your beliefs, fight oppression, and don't overdo it. Here's the Cayden. May he show us wisdom in the bottom of a glass. And yeah, don't overdo it. Bravery and drinking within reason. Don't get yourself killed or addicted. If you're an alcoholic, he actually tries to help. But as for him, he's roaming drunk and throwing out boons and blessings on a whim. But he's more than just the lucky drunk. As a mercenary, he'd go on detours to rescue people and drop jobs that broke his morals. As a mortal, he'd start rallies against oppression, and his followers have safe houses and know how to lay low. And not all of his clergy are bartenders and adventurers. Animal shelters, welfare workers, farmers, even nobility. Anyone willing to enjoy life and help others is welcome. You don't even have to like alcohol or parties. Most of his tenets are flexible, except 1. There is no acceptable reason for inflicting misery and oppression, not tradition or law or even divinity. Freedom is a right that you have to respect, which pits him against Asmodeus, especially since stumbling into power like this while breaking chains kinda disproves his whole worldview on might makes right and domination. Fun fact, Asmodeus only used to have one holiday, and he didn't care about it, it was just to appease his worshippers. Now he has a second called, hey, it's Cayden's birthday, so let's celebrate the time I killed my brother. I am desperate for him to remember I killed the first god of freedom. Maybe then he'll go away. I mean, they call it Day of Order, but I value clarity. Anyway, Cayden's followers are known for working with the churches of his very many friends. If gods are good and not too uptight, his followers are helping and ready to fight. Cayden himself is also known for fighting alongside or mentoring other gods, and also flirting to mixed success. Both he and his herald are great at seducing gods and us alike. My favorite studying lover being Torag's youngest son, Trud, cause then he'll go back to Torag to compare ale and discuss labor rights. They're good friends. If you were wondering what the connection was, that labor union is Cayden hanging out with his son and his boyfriend's dad. Our queer king has a lot of lovers and even more alliances, cause who doesn't love him? Speaking of which, that's not the only story of how he became a god. In another tale, he got rejected by a goddess of lust, saying no mortal could handle her, so he drunkenly took on the trial to impress her. It's not true, and he hates that version, but it's not helped by them being great friends and on and off lovers. They also have many of the same friends, including Arazni, and their followers get along fantastic, throwing parties with drink and entertainment already provided. That goddess, of course, being Calistria, the savored sting, goddess of lust, revenge, and trickery, beloved patron of spies and sex workers. Also the main exception from Asmodeus' open door policy, cause she's the only one who can consistently trick him. But the interesting thing about her version of revenge is that she demands you take care of yourself first. Yes, you should always plot brutal revenge, but keep it to the people who hurt you and don't become consumed. She's the goddess of revenge plots, not self-destructive rampage. And if someone's untouchable despite your efforts, especially for sex workers who can't get to their abuser, she might summon a creature to act out to their victims' wildest revenge fantasies. Though usually they'll just get covered in wasps. Pursue personal freedom, seek out thrills, and take revenge, but don't become consumed or let a slight go unanswered. People pray to her for everything from confidence to pleasure, but I love how one of the primary deities is one of sex work. It's vulnerable work and they need the protection. Little regulation, care, or regard lets abusive assholes run rampant and hurt people. That hurts the reputation, it makes people not care, and so the cycle gets worse. Unless you're part of her clergy, Calistria just wants you to keep an open mind and try something new. What other people willingly do that isn't harming you is none of your business. And being uncomfortable isn't harm. Trust me, that's a two-way street. And before you get on to me for being preachy, remember what episode you're on. Anyway, bye now.
Breaking news! A Shelyn woman thinks butts in the pants is none of your business.
That's right, Guk, and neither is who people kiss. Disapprove all you want, but leave people alone.
I'm not even mad this time, but I'm only explaining one more god. You can explain what our Shelyn means, Meal.
Oh, that's the Imperial Lord of Freedom and Beauty in your true self.
Love who you want, be who you want, experience what you want. Long as you ain't hurting nobody, who cares?
Especially with sexuality and gender, it's fine if you end up back where you started, but experiencing others' lives makes you a better person. Experimenting with gender for months or years is common with her followers.
She was in the 2008 playtest, so everything was saying, remember it was always here.
Good luck finding anyone talking about that then, even if you were looking. My favorite part is how unless you have dysphoria, Arshea always shows up as you. If the spirit of beauty chose your body, you can't call it bad. Look how happy and pretty they are, that you are. They're perfect, right? The incarnation of beauty looks perfect, right? Then I'm glad we agree you look perfect. Unless you have dysphoria, then you'll see the body you're wanting, maybe working for. And you're right, you're gorgeous. We're gonna get you there, okay?
And the symbol's a big pretty boy that'll bite the hell out of you. That good enough?
Yeah, finally, dear Serenray, the healing flame, goddess of redemption, one of the first 8 to exist, and the goddess of all redeemed monsters. Thanks to her, goblins are starting to be accepted in society. And while I'm not the most religious, I always give her respect. Sister Cinder says that everyone can be a good person if they just try. You're not getting actual good in the world if you don't give people chances to grow. Now, of course, if they won't try, or they're an undead or fiend that holds no remorse, pull out the curved sword and get to work. Especially if it's Asmodeus. He's had so many chances and used them all to hurt her. With Prophecy dead, I wouldn't be surprised if she tries killing him. And of course, one last time, together. 3, 2, 1, Urgathoa! She really wants to give second chances, and she and her followers will throw themselves in danger over it. But if it's gonna end up in more people dead, sacrificing them so you get more chances just isn't fair. She has wiped out cities and turned her backs on entire sections of her followers. But there's always sadness because she's merciful. She wants to heal people in every way. But she's also the judgment call, and sometimes the only mercy she can grant is making the blow quick. Followers try to be honest and stand up for what's right, and help people try to improve. Most who have fallen to hatred and corruption just need a helping hand, but being too lenient can get people hurt. It's a fine line that haunts everyone. The evening revelry dying as every wandering worshiper stares in the fire. That person they couldn't reach looking back. If only they were quicker. There must have been a way if they just tried harder, right? If only they were as strong then as they were now. And it goes for her too. She walks the back streets of big cities, reminding herself how people live and why she fights. Now, I don't always agree with her followers. People can twist this sort of thinking into a dangerous hatred, but she actively strikes down those who do, and I love the Dawnflower for what she does. Like having 2 amazing girlfriends. I can't even find one. Anyways, the big 20 are popular for a reason, but I hope you realize that others can be just as good or better for you specifically. I mean, it's just a numbers game, there's hundreds, but the smaller ones can get weird and fun. Like the one I mentioned in the atheism section, Torag's daughter Bolka. She's just a shipper who gets to take a more active role. She helps people ask out their partners or find love in arranged marriages. Apparently the other gods and angels can hear her cheering and growling in frustration from anywhere. These are the dwarven gods. She's louder than the forges. She watches lovers like a favorite show, and people hide rings and wedding gifts in secret places to make their wedding better. Since we don't really know much, I like to think it's because you're making the story more interesting. You're trying to make the fanfic god more invested in your story. So by that logic, you should probably hide secret gifts and love notes to your crush as well. Close calls are sure to get her salivating. I can use all the help I can get, so can't hurt, right? Anyway, thank you so incredibly much for all the help over these years. To break the fourth wall, I'm glad to be back. This is my favorite hobby, though I decided I'm done with rushing to fail to keep up with the algorithm. I'm just gonna make stuff I'm proud of without worrying about making it big or mass appeal or whatever. I just want to help you play and make cool things and share things I like. And hey, you might not even notice. Despite me being rusty, this editing's gone a lot quicker than I expected. It turns out that relaxing and taking time for other things really does increase productivity. Now, part of all this is my health, though hopefully we're mostly out of the woods on that. But you know the drill, I also need to focus on getting out of my living situation. And after I've moved, first from this state and then on my own, or at least with roommates I'm not a live-in caretaker for, buddy, I've been taking care of others 24/7, willingly or not, since I was a young child. I probably will end up with more free time, but if I'm actually able to live for myself for the first time ever, I mean, sounds fake, but that's probably gonna be the priority. But I'm not leaving here, and obviously by that point, this will be my job, because I'm just that awesome. Hey, it's the channel anniversary, you know I always get sappy and personal. Speaking of which, happy anniversary. No clue what I'll be making this year, but my goal is to have more of a personal touch, so let's have some fun. Anyway, back to substituting goblins for voice training, also known as the real me. By the way, we're gonna change the whole coffee thing. At least right now, if you donate, your name goes on the board for the foreseeable future. Though I doubt I'm gonna stop unless the channel does or credits become illegal or something, knock on wood. Unless of course you don't want me to, or I take it down at my discretion, use your common sense about what I'll put on my screen. It just turns out that if it's only the next video or two, if I don't finish by the end of the month, I feel like I scammed you. It's part of why I was rushing so much and getting kinda burned out. And I know it's just me being weird, but I'll do what I want. If you can stop at any time for no loss, I stop feeling guilty about what's clearly just a gift to help me buy channel stuff or keep me going. So thank you, Feral Goblin, Modern Masquerade, Snake Oil, and Level 1 Cleric. I'll probably keep on saying at least some of the names, just feels right. Anyway, thanks for another year. Class dismissed.